Hey, I'm Jan, the creator behind this channel, and I want to thank you all for allowing me to live my dream. Let me explain. So at the beginning of 2025, I gave myself a goal. I gave myself a goal to turn 100,000 so-called failures into successes. So in the first few months of this year, I haven't made much progress. I basically had no idea how I'm going to achieve that goal. But fortunately, after a few months, an idea came, and on the 27th March, I've uploaded the first video on this channel, and the rest is history because in just 104 days, this channel has reached 100,000 subscribers, meaning that I have successfully completed my goal of turning 100,000 so-called failures into successes. This also means that YouTube has sent us something, and you guessed it, it's the silver play button. So yeah, we successfully have this one. And I was thinking about what text should I put on the play button, and I decided to go with a text saying, "This could be you." And the message I want to share behind it is that I truly believe that this really could be you. And it doesn't necessarily mean like getting a play button or something, but it's more of like, this could be you who could achieve these impossible things. This could be you who could live your dream life. This could be you who would go after greatness and achieve great things. So yeah, you got a play button saying that this could be you. And with all that said, my next big goal is to build a community around Napoleon Hill's teachings. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of work on that community. And if you want to check it out and possibly become part of that community, you can check the first link in the description. I would love to welcome you inside. And last but not least, thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to do work that I find meaningful. Enjoy the video. Do it anyway. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel inspired. Not when the mood is sweet. Do it now while you do not feel like it. Because the future you keeps a record, and he is either grateful for your discipline or disgusted by your excuses. Most men think their feelings are truth. They are not. Feelings are weather. They change without permission. If you obey them, your life becomes a climate you cannot control. Bright one day, dark the next, and always unpredictable. You have already paid dearly for that kind of living. You have started plans with fire and abandoned them when the work turned quiet. You have made vows in the morning and broken them by evening. You have called it being human, but your results call it something else. The man you could have been is not lost in one disaster. He is lost in 1,000 small betrayals. Those moments you knew what to do, and you did not. Comfort spoke louder than purpose. Now listen to me. There is a plan you know you should follow. It may be your work, your body, your craft, your study, your financial order, your discipline of thought. You do not lack knowledge of what must be done. You lack obedience. And obedience is the difference between the man who rises and the man who remains a promise. I want you to picture a scene. It is late. The room is quiet. No one is watching. That is where your character is made. Because when applause is absent, you discover who is truly in command, your aim or your impulses. The world celebrates visible victories, but the real victory happens in secret. The decision to keep the appointment with your future when no one will clap for you. You may say, "But I am tired." Yes, and you will be tired again. You may say, "But I am unmotivated." Yes, and motivation will betray you 1,000 times. If you build your life on feeling, you will live like a slave. The man of power builds his life on decision. He chooses a definite chief aim. He organizes a plan, and then he trains his mind to follow it as a soldier follows orders without debate, without negotiation, without excuses. This is not harshness. This is freedom. The man who cannot command himself is commanded by everything else. By hunger, by anger, by entertainment, by other people's opinions, by the comfort of delay. And delay is a thief that steals in small amounts. So you do not notice the robbery until the vault is empty. Have you ever looked back at a year and wondered where it went? It did not disappear. You spent it one undisciplined choice at a time. One, I'll start tomorrow. One, I deserve a break. One, it doesn't matter today. It always matters today. Today is the only place a life can be built. Now I'm going to tell you something that will either awaken you or offend you. The plan is not meant to be followed only on your best days. The plan exists for your worst days. The plan is a bridge built for the hours when your emotions would otherwise drown you. If you only follow the plan when you feel like it, then you do not have a plan. You have a wish, and wishes do not create destinies. Somewhere ahead of you is a version of yourself living the consequences of what you are doing right now. He is either standing taller because you held your word, or he is bent with regret because you kept choosing comfort. That future self is watching you with eyes you cannot escape, not in superstition, through law. Because the subconscious records habit, and habit becomes identity, and identity becomes fate. So I ask you, what kind of man are you training yourself to be? A man who obeys a schedule only when it is easy, a man who works only when he is praised, a man who quits when the excitement fades, or are you the man who, when the excitement fades, or are you the man who can be relied upon? The man who keeps his appointment with his purpose even when his feelings protest, the man who does not require perfect conditions to produce a disciplined act. In this speech, I will show you how to follow the plan when you do not feel like it, how to silence the inner negotiator, how to command your attention, how to use repetition to make discipline automatic, and how to turn one day of obedience into a permanent habit. But I will not give it to you as entertainment. You must listen as a man receiving orders that could change his life, because they can. Your future is not built by your strongest moods. It is built by your smallest decisions repeated until they become your nature. So here is your first test before I say another word. For the next minutes, do not drift. Do not half listen. Give me your full attention as if your entire future were sitting across from you at the table, because in truth it is. Now let us begin with the first law of obedience, the law that turns a plan into a life. Part 1. The law of daily obedience. A man's greatest enemy is not ignorance. It is disobedience to what he already knows. Knowledge has never been the problem. Every man knows what must be done to improve his life. He knows the hour he should rise, the duties he should perform, the words he should hold, the thoughts he should reject. But knowledge without obedience is vanity. It flatters the intellect while starving the will. It allows a man to talk like a leader while living like a servant to his moods. The true measure of greatness begins when a man stops treating his decisions as suggestions. You can always recognize the weak man. He debates every command he gives himself. He spends his mornings in negotiation, his afternoons in distraction, and his nights in regret. He is a parliament of conflicting voices. His intellect proposes, his desire objects, his fear postpones, and his conscience records the defeat. Such a man does not need more inspiration. He needs law. Understand this well. The successful man is not the one who is always inspired. He is the one who has learned to act without inspiration. He does not wait to feel ready. He does not require permission from emotion. He obeys his plan as a soldier obeys his superior. Obedience is not punishment. It is protection. It shields the mind from the chaos of endless self-debate. Most men are tired not because they work too hard, but because they think too much about whether they will work. Indecision drains energy faster than labor. To decide once and obey that decision is to save a lifetime of wasted motion. There is a law in the universe which no man can escape. Energy flows toward definiteness. The moment you issue a clear command to yourself, the entire machinery of mind begins to move toward its fulfillment. But if you issue a command in the morning and revoke it by noon, the mind grows confused. It stops obeying altogether. You have trained it to distrust your voice. Discipline is not a mood. Discipline is obedience to a previous decision. It is the act of honoring your own word when the excitement that gave it birth has disappeared. The moment you understand this, life simplifies. You stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" and begin declaring, "It is already decided." Let me show you what I mean through the life of a man who understood this law. Henry Ford. When Ford first demanded that his engineers build a V8 engine, they told him it was impossible. They showed him diagrams, equations, proofs. Ford listened, nodded, and said simply, "Build it." They returned months later with the same objection. His answer did not change. "Build it." The engineers obeyed, and the impossible surrendered. That is the power of obedience, to persist in the order long enough for reality to conform. Every man contains two voices. One gives command, the other pleads for compromise. Every morning these two meet in battle. The weak man makes the mistake of negotiating with his weaker self. The strong man gives no audience to rebellion. He issues his command and turns his back. He knows that the mind once starved of indulgence learns obedience. Obedience must begin small, for the mind is like a stubborn animal. It must be trained. Choose one command and follow it completely. Rise at the same hour each day and never delay it. Read your chief aim aloud morning and night and never omit it. Fulfill one small task daily, regardless of fatigue. When you do this once, you prove your power. When you do it daily, you make that power permanent. Thomas Edison worked by this very rhythm. The world called him a genius. Failures mounted, his routine never changed. He arrived at the same hour, conducted the same experiments, and refused the indulgence of discouragement. To him, invention was not a flash of inspiration, but a consequence of obedience to daily work. He understood that success is built by men who have learned to keep appointments with destiny. The average man waits decades waiting to feel ready. He calls it prudence. It is cowardice disguised as reason. He will say, "I am waiting for the right time." There is no right time. The time becomes right the moment obedience begins. You can spend 30 years waiting for readiness and find you have prepared for nothing. Every time you delay what you have already decided, you weaken the bridge between thought and action. You teach your mind that your words are untrustworthy. The next time you make a vow, your subconscious will remember your record and reply, "We have heard this before." Confidence cannot survive in such a mind. Confidence grows only in those who obey themselves. Feelings are weather. Law is climate. The man who lives by law endures storms without altering course. He knows that rain does not change the mountain nor boredom the plan. Emotion is a visitor. Obedience is a citizen. Emotion knocks and shouts. Obedience continues. The disciplined man lives by climate, a steady atmosphere of purpose that does not depend on sunlight. The man of law becomes serene because he no longer fears his own inconsistency. He has placed himself under rule. He no longer wastes energy persuading himself to do what must be done. His decisions are his orders. His word is command. His obedience is freedom. Freedom. This is the paradox that escapes the undisciplined. They think obedience is bondage, but the reverse is true. The man who obeys his own plan is free from the tyranny of impulse, mood, and excuse. The man who refuses obedience is enslaved to every fleeting appetite. Consider the musician. To the novice, scales and repetition feel like imprisonment, but to the master, they are liberty. Through obedience to order, he achieves expression. So it is with the disciplined man. His routine is his liberation. Within it, he moves without resistance. There is a secret known only to those who have learned obedience. Each act, when you follow through once, you gain energy to follow through again. Action feeds power as surely as hesitation feeds weakness. The law of the mind is this: that which is repeated expands. Whether it be delay or decisiveness, every day you disobey your own plan. You create an internal court where your conscience prosecutes you. You may silence it temporarily with distraction, but the verdict remains guilty of neglect. The only cure is restitution. When a man learns to obey himself once, he no longer force himself. Force is only necessary when command is uncertain. Once it becomes habit, it becomes nature. You no longer try to be disciplined, you simply act according to who you are. Listen carefully now. I am not telling you to destroy emotion. Emotion is a fine servant, but a ruinous master. It can inspire, but it cannot lead. The plan must lead. You must establish one ruling principle in your mind that your feelings will never decision. When I worked with Andrew Carnegie, I observed that his calmness was his power. He was never hurried, never flustered, never reactive. His secret was simple. His decisions were final. He did not revisit them every morning. He gave his command once and obeyed it until results appeared. That is why his energy never fractured, why his empire grew where others collapsed. Obedience gives life shape. Without it, days dissolve into shapeless wishes. The man who obeys his plan knows where to direct his strength. The man who does not spends his years repairing the damage of his own inconsistency. You must stop thinking of obedience as limitation. Obedience is the sculptor that chisels chaos into form, A river without banks becomes a flood. A life without rule becomes waste. When you obey, you give your power direction. Let this be your creed. I do not wait for feeling. I do not wait for approval. I obey what I have decided. Each morning, speak your chief aim aloud and command your mind to serve it. Nothing else matters, for every result in life grows from that answer. The man who obeys himself gains a rare kind of presence. People still sense it before they see results. His eyes are steady, his speech carries weight, his movements lack hurry. He commands attention not because he seeks it, but because his mind and body have become one instrument. Do it once and do it always. Do not obey for a season and then grow lax. Consistency is built through continuity. The man who obeys his rule for 30 days gains a rhythm that 10 years of drifting could never buy. He feels a quiet joy, the joy of certainty. This law may appear simple. It is. That is why it is neglected. The drifter searches for something complex to justify his delay. He says it cannot be that simple, and so he continues in search of another system, another teacher, another feeling. But he does not need more instruction. You will find that obedience does not remove difficulty, it removes confusion. The path may still be steep, but it will no longer divide. You will know half your climb debating whether to ascend. Move steadily, and that steadiness will bring peace. Repeat these affirmations until they become instinct. My decisions are my orders. My word is command. Obedience is freedom. Say them when you feel strong, and say them when you feel weak. Say them when you succeed, and especially when you fail. For every repetition carves the truth deeper into the subconscious. Eventually, you will obey these words without effort because they will have become your nature. Now you know the first great law of power, the law of daily obedience. He who learns to obey himself once never again needs to force himself. For obedience is not an act, it is an identity. The man who obeys has already conquered himself, and the man who conquers himself can no longer be conquered by the world. Part 2. The economy of energy. Every man wakes each morning with a limited sum of strength, physical, mental, and spiritual. Some spend it recklessly before breakfast. Others conserve it like gold and invest it toward a single worthy aim. This is the secret that divides the strong from the weak. Not how much energy a man possesses, but how he spends it. Success is not the reward of endless motion, but of disciplined direction. The average man does not fail because he lacks energy. He fails because his emotions fluctuate, and his mind runs from task to task without completing one. He calls himself busy, but business is often the most respectable form of waste. A man's real wealth is not the hours he works, but the hours that work for him. There is a law that governs all power, physical and unseen. What is concentrated grows. What is divided dies. The same electricity that lights a city can be made to kill a man when condensed to a single point. So it is with the mind. Concentration converts weakness into force. Yet most men live in dispersion, thinking of one thing while doing another, talking of progress while drifting backward. Discipline is the art of conserving power. It's a useless debate. Each moment of indecision bleeds vitality. Every unguarded emotion drains strength. That is why the disciplined man appears calm while others burn out. He does not waste fuel on reaction. He spends it on creation. Emotional decision-making is the most expensive luxury on earth. It spends the will as a gambler spends coin on impulse. Feelings are fickle creditors. They lend you energy for the moment, but demand payment in exhaustion. The disciplined man knows better. He treats emotion as a spark to be contained, not as a fire to follow. Let me give you an image. Picture two men in a forge. Both have iron to shape. The first swings his hammer in wild rhythm, chasing sparks. His blows are loud but uneven. He tires quickly, and the metal remains stubborn. The second man lifts his hammer slowly, brings it down in perfect timing again and again until the iron yields to precision. Brings it down in perfect timing again and again until the iron yields to precision. The first man burns with motion. The second builds with method. The world calls the first passionate and the second boring. But when the smoke clears, only one holds a finished blade. So it is in life. The emotional worker begins many things with enthusiasm and completes none. The disciplined worker begins quietly, endures the dull repetition, and emerges with mastery. That which appears slow is often the fastest path of all, because it wastes nothing. This is the law of the straight line. Every man is surrounded by distractions, begging him to bend, to pause, to question his direction. Each detour steals time and vitality. But the man who moves in a straight line from decision to action accumulates a strange power. He becomes unstoppable not through speed, but through continuity. The shortest path between a dream and its fulfillment is obedience to a single command followed directly. Andrew Carnegie lived by this law. In the height of his empire, when hundreds of voices sought his attention, he asked himself only one question: will this advance the steel business? If yes, he acted at once. If not, he discarded it without regret. That single question saved him years of confusion. Simplicity at once. If not, he discarded it without regret. That single question saved him years of confusion. Simplicity of decision is economy of energy. You must understand overthinking is the thief of strength. It disguises itself as intelligence, but it is cowardice clothed in reason. Each time you ponder instead of perform, you divide your force. Thinking has its place in planning, but once the plan is made, thought must serve action. There comes a time when reflection becomes resistance. Energy lost to hesitation cannot be recovered. There are no refunds for the hours spent in worry. The mind, like a muscle, tires from tension. You can exhaust yourself doing nothing. How many men have gone to bed weary from a day spent in mental debate? They have performed no labor, produced no result, and yet feel drained as if they had toiled for 10. It was not work that tired them. It was resistance to work. You must learn to conserve the energy of will. The undisciplined man spends his willpower each morning fighting small battles. When to rise, what to begin, how long to work. The disciplined man decides once and removes the question forever. His routine becomes his servant. He does not fight his duties, he fulfills them. The difference between struggle and flow is order. Repetition properly understood is not monotony. It is efficiency. The undisciplined man despises repetition because he associates it with boredom. The disciplined man revere repetition because he knows it creates mastery. A pianist repeats scales not to impress but to improve. Each strike of the key conditions precision until art becomes instinct. So it is with life. Thomas Edison's laboratory was a temple of repetition. Every instrument was placed in its proper position. Every experiment recorded with ritual precision. Inspiration was welcome but never awaited. He said genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. What he meant was obedience to process. You may think such order dull, but remember this. What he meant was obedience to process. You may think such order dull, but remember this. Boredom is the complaint of the undisciplined mind. The man of purpose does not require constant novelty. He requires progress. There is peace in knowing exactly what must be done. Each repetition saves him the fatigue of decision. Each day obeyed saves him the chaos of wondering. A mind trained in obedience becomes efficient beyond measure. Its movements are sharp, its emotions steady, its strength reserved for creation. When you reduce friction, momentum multiplies. The calm man accomplishes more because he wastes nothing. Emotion is like fire. Controlled it warms, uncontrolled it consumes. Do not let excitement dictate your pace. The crowd burns brightly and dies quickly. You must burn steadily, like the hidden furnace that powers a ship across the sea. This is why law and rhythm are partners. Rhythm turns effort into ease. Once habit takes over, obedience feels like music. Rhythm turns effort into ease. Once habit takes over, obedience feels like music. There is beauty in a well-ordered day. When you know your duties, you no longer question them. You move as a craftsman moves, sure, silent, content. Consider how nature operates. The sun rises and sets without complaint. The tides obey their rhythm. The seasons arrive without debate. Creation itself runs by order. Man alone rebels against his own schedule, and in doing so, he breaks the harmony that should govern his life. Repeat these affirmations until your mind bows to their truth. I do not argue with my duties. My order saves my strength. Energy obeys direction. Each statement is a command to the subconscious, a reminder that strength increases when scattered impulses are gathered under one will. Once a student of mine asked, "How do I stop wasting energy on what does not matter?" I answered, "Decide once what matters and let that decision stand as law." A man without a hierarchy of values cannot concentrate. He chases every desire like a child chasing butterflies. The mature mind selects one aim and sacrifices all else to it. When your plan is definite, fatigue becomes rare. Fatigue does not come from effort. It comes from inner division. The soldier who marches in obedience does not feel exhaustion as deeply as the wanderer who marches in obedience does not feel exhaustion as deeply as the wanderer who walks without destination. Purpose is the cure for weariness. You will soon notice that the man who conserves his focus possesses a unique calmness. Others may mistake it for indifference, but it is mastery. He does not rush because he is not lost. He is unmoved by urgency because his work proceeds in order. While others panic, he plans. While others plan, he performs. The crowd is always in motion, but seldom in progress. They equate busyness with achievement. Yet it is better to take one step with purpose than to run a mile without direction. The man of law knows this. He does not boast of activity. He measures by completion. To illustrate this truth, let me return to the forge. Two blacksmiths begin their day. The first swings madly, sparks flying. His noise fills the workshop, but his metal remains cold. The second repeats one measured blow after another. His rhythm never changes. The first grows weary and angry. The second grows stronger with each strike. At day's end, the second holds a finished sword. The first holds exhaustion. In time, you will discover that efficiency breeds serenity. When your mind ceases to scatter, peace descends. Anxiety fades because there is nothing left to debate. You have surrendered argument for order. This is why the disciplined man sleeps deeply. His day ends in clarity. Let this truth enter your spirit. The mind cannot serve two masters. It must either obey law or follow impulse. To try both is to tear yourself in two. Choose once and live by it. Obedience will feel hard at first, but soon it will feel natural. You must stop worshiping inspiration. Inspiration is a kind visitor, but a poor companion. It arrives uninvited and leaves without warning. Build your days so that they do not depend upon its arrival. The man who works only when inspired will remain a novice forever. The man who works through routine will find that inspiration begins to visit him more often, for inspiration respects consistency. The disciplined man uses structure not to confine himself, but to channel his force. His schedule is his fortress. His order is his weapon. His predictability is his secret strength. Others think him dull because they cannot imagine living without chaos. But chaos is the diet of the weak. It is better to do one thing daily than 10 things occasionally. Frequency beats intensity. The world celebrates the sprinter. Life rewards the marathoner. The long race belongs to those who conserve their strength. Energy, when rightly directed, turns ordinary effort into power. The secret is not to do more, but to waste less. Each moment of hesitation, each indulgence in distraction is theft from your own potential. Guard your focus as you would guard your fortune. When your mind begins to tire, remind yourself the cure for fatigue is potential. Guard your focus as you would guard your fortune. When your mind begins to tire, remind yourself the cure for fatigue is not idleness. It is alignment. Rest restores only the body. Clarity restores the spirit. Review your plan, reaffirm your purpose, and fatigue will fall away. I tell you this truth with certainty. He who learns to focus 1 hour gains the force of 10. This is not poetry. It is arithmetic. A man who wastes 9/10 of his energy on confusion and distraction will accomplish 1/10 of his potential. But a man who channels every thought into his chief aim becomes unstoppable. And now, my friend, you must practice this law. Decide once and act directly. Think less about how you feel and more about where you are going. Guard your mornings from interference, your mind from gossip, your time from triviality. Let every decision lead straight to your aim. This is the second great law of power, the economy of energy. The disciplined mind spends strength like gold and wastes none. The man who masters this law no longer fears fatigue, for his strength is multiplied by order. His progress is quiet but relentless. He becomes what all men envy but few understand. A man who wastes nothing and therefore in time gains everything. Part 3. The identity of the builder. A man is never truly inconsistent because he still believes he is the same man he was yesterday. He tries to build new results upon an old identity, and the foundation cracks. No amount of motivation can sustain a man who still thinks like a drifter. You can change your habits only when you change the image from which they flow. You do not rise to the level of your wishes. You sink to the level of your habits. A man's true faith is not written in his prayers or promises, but in his patterns. What he repeats, he becomes. You can know a man's entire destiny by observing what he does daily without being told. It is not what you dream of doing that defines you. It is what you cannot stop doing. The subconscious mind is the keeper of identity. It does not care about your hopes or feelings. It obeys repetition. It accepts as law. It makes no moral judgment between noble and worthless commands. Tell it you are weak, and it will prove you right. Tell it you are powerful, and it will align every cell in your being toward that truth. Every act of obedience to your plan is more than progress. It is proof. Each time you follow through when no one sees, you add a brick to the structure of your new identity. The world may not yet recognize it, but the subconscious records every brick. Slowly, silently, it begins to accept a new order of truth. I am a man who finishes what he begins. Once that truth is written into the subconscious, behavior follows automatically. You will no longer need to force discipline. You will express it as naturally as breath. Discipline will cease to be an act. It will become an instinct. Charles M. Schwab understood this. Schwab was not the most brilliant engineer or the most edgy in his company, but he was the most dependable. If he said a task would be done, it was done. No excuse, no reminders, no explanation. That reputation of reliability made him indispensable. Carnegie said, "I would rather have one man I can rely upon than who promised the world." Schwab's discipline created identity, and that identity created destiny. Now look closely at your own record. How many small promises have you broken to yourself this month? How many times did you say you would rise early, read, study, work, or persist, and then delayed? Each broken promise is not merely lost time. It is a blow to identity. Your mind keeps a ledger, and with every failure to obey, it writes a line. He does not mean what he says. You cannot build greatness on that foundation. To rebuild it, you must collect evidence of reliability daily, deliberately, and relentlessly. You must show yourself proof until the mind, once skeptical, begins to believe again. The law of reflection governs this transformation. A man becomes what he proves to himself daily. Every act is a mirror, every repetition a reflection. Change the proof and the belief follows. That is why you must choose one act of obedience and perfect it. One simple habit executed without. When you prove that you can be trusted in one thing, you trust yourself in all things. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young clerk in a small office. He was diligent but unremarkable. Others mocked him for seriousness. He worked longer hours, asked for more responsibility, and refused to gossip. While they laughed, he built consistency. That clerk's name was Abraham Lincoln. Years later, when the nation sought a leader who would not yield to chaos, they chose him. Not because he was charming or clever, but because he was steady. He had built identity through years of visible faithfulness. When a man practices obedience long enough, his movements change. His voice deepens with conviction. His eyes settle with calm certainty. Even before he achieves visible success, people begin to sense it. They feel something in him, a reliability rare in the modern world. They may not understand it, but they are drawn to it. That attraction is not luck. It is the magnetic field of identity. You must understand you do not try to become this kind of man. You decide to become him. The difference between trying and deciding is infinite. Trying is an experiment. Deciding is a decree. The man who decides builds evidence until his decision becomes flesh. Repetition is the sculptor of identity. Every act chisels character. Repetition of hesitation makes a coward. Repetition of courage makes a conqueror. Nature itself obeys this law. What it repeats, it strengthens. The river deepens its channel not by violence, but by constancy. The oak hardens its trunk through steady growth, not sudden motion. So too your mind becomes strong through repetition of the same disciplined acts. Faith itself is repetition of thought. Persistence is repetition of action. Love is repetition of service. All great powers in life are born from this sacred rhythm. Repetition, far from being dull, is divine. It is the way creation itself operates. The stars rise and set by it. The heart beats by it. Success unfolds by it. Many men reject repetition because they are enslaved by novelty. They fear boredom more than failure. But boredom is only the surface of transformation. Beneath it, change is taking root. The soil of mastery is repetition under indifference. Do not flee it. Endure it. In time, the dull act becomes sacred. I will tell you this truth. Greatness always begins as repetition without reward. The farmer plants seed after silence, watering, watching, waiting. To the end, he looks foolish. Yet when the harvest arrives, the world calls him wise. So too with you. You may repeat your routine for months without fruit, but nature is not mocking you. It is testing you. It asks only one question. Will you persist long enough to deserve reward? When your answer is yes, when your daily obedience proves it, the doors that once resisted and the world seeing your sudden rise will call it luck, but it will not be luck. It will be invisible compound interest of consistency. Say these words aloud until your subconscious accepts them as law. I am the man who does what must be. My habits are my proof. I no longer try, I perform. You must be careful what you allow yourself to say. For every word, a blueprint to the subconscious. When you say, I will try, you command the mind to prepare for failure. When you say, I must, you awaken resistance. But when you say, I am, you summon identity. And identity has no debate. The builder differs from the dreamer in one essential way. The dreamer believes greatness will arrive if he waits long enough. The builder knows greatness must be constructed brick by brick with the same routine others despise. The builder is patient, not because he is slow, but because he knows time is his servant, not his enemy. Look again at the lives of the men we call titans. Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie, none of them were the most gifted in their youth. What distinguished them was not intelligence, but faithfulness. Each followed a rhythm so exacting that others called them obsessed. But that obsession was not madness. It was loyalty to a vision. The world mistook it for monotony because the world does not understand that freedom is born from materials before finding the filament for his electric light. Thousands of failures, each one a step of repetition. When asked how he endured so many defeats, he replied, I have not failed. I have found 10,000 ways that will not work. That answer reveals the mind of a builder. He did not define himself by outcome, but by identity. He was a man who built, and so he built. Repetition does not imprison you, it refines you. When you repeat an act with full attention, you are not trapped in sameness. You are approaching perfection. The sculptor's 1,000 strokes on the same stone do not bore him. They bring him closer to truth. Each motion removes what does not belong. You must come to see repetition is sacred. To repeat your duty each day without seeking praise is to align with the rhythm of creation itself. When you act in harmony with that law, the world will yield. Others will begin to treat you differently. They will sense that your word is not suggestion, but certainty. People gravitate toward what is stable. In a world of noise, the man of repetition becomes a refuge. Do not confuse rest with drift. The builder rests to renew his strength, never to escape his plan. His rest serves his purpose. His leisure is scheduled, not stolen. The drifter, however, uses rest to flee responsibility and calls it balance. But balance is not equal time for chaos and order. True balance is calm under direction. When your habits have formed identity, your presence will change the atmosphere of every room. Others will sense it without knowing why. They will feel that you can be trusted, that your word is bond, that your presence is order. This is the invisible influence of a man who has become himself through repetition. The man who is still searching for motivation must understand this. Motivation is not cause, it is consequence. You feel motivated when your actions align with your identity. Motivation does not precede work, it follows it. The man who works daily needs no external spark. His rhythm produces its own flame. Remember this eternal law. Identity obeys habit. Change the habit, and the man follows. A single disciplined action repeated until automatic will alter destiny more than 1,000 scattered bursts of effort. You need not fix everything at once. You need only make your daily obedience permanent. Do not wait to become before you act. Act until you become. That is the formula by which all transformation occurs. Your actions are your prayers, and your habits are your answers. When your habits change, your life must follow. You will know the transformation is complete when the thought of abandoning your plan feels unnatural, when disobedience feels like betrayal, when your word feels sacred, not optional. That is the identity of the builder, the man whose habits cannot betray him. He moves through the world with quiet certainty. He no longer speaks of plans, he executes them. He no longer announces change, he embodies it. He no longer seeks validation, he becomes validation. And others seeing him feel the urge to rise. For identity, like fire, spreads through contact. This is the third great law, the law of identity. Every act of obedience is a declaration of who you are. Repeat the right acts long enough, and the man who once struggled to follow the plan will become the plan. Part 4. The judgment of the future self. There is a man watching you, though you cannot yet see him. He is not a stranger. He bears your face, speaks with your voice, and lives in the house built by your choices. That man is your future self. He sees everything you do in this present hour, the moments you obey your plan and the moments you betray it. You may deceive the world with excuses and moods, but you cannot deceive him. His entire life depends upon your conduct today. Every act is a seed. Every decision is a thread in the fabric of destiny. The future self either harvests your obedience or chokes upon your neglect. When you delay, he pays the price. When you persist, he inherits the peace. Each hour is a transaction between the present and the future, a sacred trade that cannot be reversed once made. I have seen countless men waste their youth. Believing that time will forgive them. They live as if tomorrow were an infinite field in which they plant whatever they wish. But time is not indulgent. It is exacting. It records words with perfect precision. Every broken promise, every day squandered, every aim abandoned becomes part of the soil in which your future must live. The subconscious mind is the record keeper of this invisible account. It tracks every act of obedience and every act of evasion. When you obey, it writes worthy, reliable, faithful. When you delay, it writes uncertain, afraid, untrustworthy. Years later, when you face challenge or opportunity, this record determines your response. You will act according to the identity you have proven, not the one you imagine. Understand this. No man escapes the judgment of his future self. You will one day stand before the sum of your decisions. If you have obeyed your plan through hardship, that future version of you will meet you with gratitude. If you have drifted through excuses, he will meet you with silent reproach. That meeting is unavoidable. You cannot plead ignorance, for you have heard the truth. Discipline, therefore, is not merely a tool for success. It is an act of moral integrity. It is a covenant between who you are and who you will be. To follow your plan, even when you do not feel like it, is to protect the man you must become. Regret and mediocrity. To disobey it is to betray him. Picture that man clearly. Picture him 10 years from now, his home, his health, his confidence, his peace. Everything about him depends on what you do today. If you waste this day, you steal from him. If you persevere, you provide for him. Your future self is not an abstraction. He is your descendant. What kind of ancestor will you be? All habits are seeds planted in the soil of time. You will either reap a harvest or pull weeds. The man who lives by impulse plants chaos and calls it freedom. The man who lives by law plants order and calls it peace. The soil does not argue. It gives back exactly what is sown. Do not deceive yourself with talk of fate. Fate is the accumulated result of small daily obedience or small daily neglect. The universe rewards definite tests of action, not clever words. The future is built by law, not chance. There are two kinds of men, those who live for mood and those who live for legacy. The first wake each day asking, what do I feel like doing? The second wake asking, what must I do to honor the future? One lives in cycles of enthusiasm and despair. The other walks a straight path of progress. The first grows old without wisdom. The second grows wise before age. Consider the life of George Eastman, founder of Kodak. He did not follow passion. He followed plan. He worked through dull years when no one believed in him. He mapped his company decades ahead, guided not by emotion, but by foresight. When he finally triumphed, the world called him brilliant. Yet his genius was simply obedience to a long vision. His name endures because he lived under the judgment of his future self. Or look to Abraham Lincoln. He faced ridicule, defeat, and failure. Yet his decisions were never governed by public opinion. He was not seeking comfort in the present. He was building justice for posterity. The crowd called him stubborn. History called him steadfast. He understood that every choice must withstand the inspection of time. You too must begin to live as if your future self were already watching, because he is. The subconscious is the bridge between today and tomorrow. It receives every thought as instruction. When you say, "I will try," it records uncertainty. When you say, "I obey," it records command. In years to come, it delivers the result with perfect fairness. There is no cruelty in this. It is law. The subconscious rewards loyalty to order with stability and punishes disobedience with confusion. The man who neglects his plan today trains his mind to neglect him later. His future becomes chaotic because his present is undisciplined. But the man who honors his plan, even in boredom, trains his subconscious to trust him. The result is ease, certainty, and visible command. When you rise to your duty, though you feel nothing, you are writing a love letter to your future self. When you surrender to mood, you are leaving him to starve. Love of self is not indulgence. It is protection of destiny. The highest form of love is to safeguard the man you will become from the weakness of who you are now. Repeat these affirmations until they are carved into your spirit. My actions are my inheritance. The man I will be watches the man I am. I act today with reverence for tomorrow. Say them aloud when you rise and before you sleep. Speak them not as hope, but as declaration. Words are spiritual tools. They mold unseen substance. Speak enough truth, and your actions will begin to obey your voice. Now listen closely, for this is one of the most misunderstood truths of success. Time is not your enemy. Time is your amplifier. It magnifies whatever you feed it. If you sow indifference, it multiplies loss. If you sow effort, it multiplies power. The years do not change men. They reveal what he has practiced. You must therefore make time your ally through consistency. The days will pass regardless. The only question is what they will leave behind. For the drifter, time is erosion. For the disciplined, time is compound interest. Imagine standing before your future self 10 years hence. His eyes are clear, his presence calm, his voice sure. He says to you, "Thank you. You followed the plan when you did not feel like it. You saved us." That gratitude is worth more than applause, for it is self-respect made visible. But there is another image. The man who arrives in the same span of years, broken, resentful, uncertain. His eyes accuse you without words. He says, "You knew what to do. You delayed. You traded my strength for your comfort." That is hell, not fire or torment, but the pain of wasted potential. Do not let that meeting be one of regret. Begin now to live with reverence for your future self. Every small act of obedience today becomes protection for tomorrow. You are writing your biography in real time. Each decision is a sentence, each day a page. Make sure the story ends in triumph, not apology. You may think this teaching severe, but severity is mercy. The man who hears only pleasant truths remains a child. The man who welcomes hard law becomes unbreakable. Discipline is mercy in disguise. It prevents greater suffering later. Your emotions will continue to protest. They will whisper, "You deserve rest. You deserve ease. You deserve to stop." But what you truly deserve is freedom. And freedom can only be purchased by consistency. Each time you obey when it is difficult, you purchase another measure of peace. Others will not understand you at first. They will say you are obsessed, rigid, humorless. But when the results appear, when your life becomes ordered and their lives remain chaotic, they will call you lucky. You will know better. You will know that the universe favors the man who follows the plan even in silence. The years will reward you differently. Time will become your ally. Where others age into fatigue and confusion, you will age into clarity and power. The man who honors his plan multiplies strength as he grows older. His habits, refined by repetition, begin to think for him. He works with the ease of rhythm, not the strain of will. Success will come quietly, almost invisibly. One day you will wake and notice that the things which once demanded struggle now unfold naturally. You will no longer need to remind yourself to act. You will act because it is who you are. You will no longer chase discipline. You will have become discipline. People will begin to rely upon you. They will say, "He is dependable." Allies, family, all will sense your reliability and feel safer in your presence. Confidence radiates from order. The world follows the man who keeps his word because he is rare. Let me give you a truth that will never change. Repetition is the bridge between the seen and the unseen. Each obedient act today becomes part of an invisible accumulation that eventually bursts into visible success. To the crowd, it will appear sudden. To you, it will feel inevitable. Time is not testing your ability, it is testing your consistency. The same law that governs the seed governs success. Persist and you will grow. Delay and you will decay. There are no miracles for the inconsistent. Every man wants a better future, but few are willing to build it one disciplined day at a time. They want transformation without repetition, reward without sacrifice, harvest without sowing. But life does not bend to convenience. It obeys law. Do not fear the quiet years of repetition. They are your investment in permanence. The crowd seeks constant stimulation. The builder seeks steady growth. The crowd chases applause. The builder seeks accuracy. The crowd fears monotony. The builder trusts rhythm. One burns out in chaos. The other builds empires in silence. The future self you are creating will thank you not for your excitement, but for your endurance. He will bless the mornings you rose though you felt nothing, the hours you worked without applause, the nights you studied instead of drifting. He will inherit not your emotions, but your habits. Give him good ones. And now I leave you with the highest law of all. The man who follows the plan when he least feels like it will one day live a life that feels exactly as he once dreamed. You will not remember every word I have spoken. You will not need to. If you remember only this one sentence and obey it, it will reshape your future. The plan was given to you to protect you when your feelings would betray you. Follow it without hesitation, without drama, without debate. Follow it until obedience becomes nature and nature becomes joy. You owe that to the man who waits for you in the years ahead. He is watching, he is waiting, and he deserves a better life than your moods would have built for.